YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. F-16, ordinance off, 64 millimeters. We took the gear off. We're gonna belly land this thing. It's gonna be awesome. 4S, 2200, gains on ×2, about 75% on the right knob. Full throttle, there we go. Give it a little down elevator, get the thing flying. Very easy hand launch, that's an AS3X. Way better cloud cover for filming tonight. Of course, we need to be leaving for RC Fest, so we are literally filming when we should be driving. But that's okay, it's all part of the show. This is what you do if you're an RC influencer. You work against impossible timelines and never ever have any problems because it's all fun and games. Oh yeah! I mean, that part's fun. Up and over, inside. Take off flaps here on the way downhill. Look at that thing, beautiful, guys. The flaps actually work on this thing, flapper-ons, that is, I should say. Dead calm, this thing is just locked in. Going up, lots of power. Rudder is very effective takeoff flaps. Now remember, they're flapper-ons, so you go all the way down. And you will lose your roll authority to a great degree. Roll rate is not amazing on this plane out of box as it stands, but I gotta say, if you decide to buy this plane and fly it as a belly lander in calm, you're gonna be very happy. If you decide to buy it and fly it with all the ordnance on, you're gonna think it's doggy as all get out because it is flying through the hole. Check this out, guys. So cool. You get this in Thunderbirds too. Very cool trim livery. I like gray planes. This is called Battlefield Gray. That's what I would go with. And I gotta say, it looks just like, or very similar to the F-16s that I grew up with, watching fly around Des Moines, Iowa in the 132nd Squadron. How do I know that? Squadron, because I watched them fly for many years. And then also I looked it up when I did the 80 millimeter EDF from E-flite, which is amazing. And I gotta say, this thing looks every bit as good, except for the retracts. Because let's just be honest, folks, not having full functioning stabilators is not a deal breaker for me. It's kind of a non-cool factor, but I gotta say, this plane looks the part, it flies the part, but it still has fixed gear. Fixed gear are lame on jets, and so if you take them off, you're gonna get better flight performance. So speaking of flight performance, yes, you can do all sorts of fun things, and you can put it in safe if you have AS3X and safe equipped, which I do, so I have takeoff flaps now deployed. Slowing it down, and I'll just show you with the sticks. Letting go of the sticks, that's our 3-minute timer. You can see it just writes at place. I'm just gliding, by the way. Not doing anything other than watching how awesome it looks. Out of the flaps, limiting our bank and pitch angles, which is really disconcerting when you're used to flying a jet because you try to do things and it doesn't happen, but that's okay. Okay, back to S3X, off the sticks. Remember, when you're flying a plane and you go from safe to not safe, don't forget to kind of almost let go of the sticks, because what's gonna happen is when you have that stick pulled all the way to the edge and you turn safe off, you're gonna probably crash. Very refined movements there, but with the wing flex, you can definitely tell you gotta actively fly this thing if you do high G maneuvers, because it will bend the wing a little bit, I've noticed. Now, is that a problem? Not really. It kind of looks sweet, I think. And I gotta say, the footage tonight is way better than the footage we got in the bright sun from earlier today. But also, I love the fact that this flies on 4S, 2200, all the way up to 2600 as recommended by FMS. Takeoff flaps now, we'll slow it down. Full landing flaps here. Lot of rudder, lot of rudder. Lot of rudder. Look at that thing slow down, folks. Look at that. 50, 60% input on throttle. Very, very timid roll rate because you're only getting one side working essentially. Okay, back to the takeoff flaps. Now back into landing flaps, inside pass. Nice and slow, very beautiful, guys. Get one from the links in the video description below. Help us to realize the fruit of our labor.
You're like 5 minutes.
Are you concerned about 5 minutes because we have to get to Illinois or because the battery might die?
Well, because if the battery dies.
How about I just do this? Let's try landing it in a more conventional way because we can. You know what? Takeoff flaps, landing flaps. Camera crew is usually right. Not always, mostly on camera. She's always right. And stall it into the tall grass. Look at all that pollen, disgusting. Flaps are off, throttle cuts on. 2 minutes 33, past 3 makes 5, 33. Did you guys catch that map? Okay, so the grass, as you can see, it's been really tall and everybody else is cutting their grass right now that produces hay, but we're gonna drive to Illinois so we can see you. If you guys are watching this after RC Fest, don't you worry, we made it just fine. It was amazing, probably met you in person, and it was awesome. Holy cow, there's a lot of stuff on this. Wow, look at this. First of all, tall grass makes good belly landing material. And second of all, look at all those yellow things on there. Isn't that crazy? Look at that. That's the pollen and stuff coming up. Okay, watch this. Goodness gracious, I'm gonna have to fly it just to get all the little yellow things off. That is so cool. And also, yes, this is plagued as with every other jet we've ever flown. That stuff gets stuck every time. And I can't get it out because I need somebody to help me hold the plane. Hold the plane by the top of the wing, please. And you see, all you gotta do is just pull it out like this. But if you don't do that, over time, you're gonna rip your missile off the missile rail. And those things are crazy. Do you guys see what I'm talking about? Okay, so final thoughts really quick because we gotta drive. Like literally, we're late for our drive to Illinois, which for us is like 5 or 6 hours, something like that, plus stopping for gas and things like that. If you wanna help support Brian Phillips RC and all the fun things that we get to do to help support the hobby, best way you can do it is smash the like button. Click the bell for notifications when you are subscribing. And I would highly suggest that you check out BrianPhillipsRC.com. That's our domain. You'll be able to find every plane you want sorted by type, by manufacturer, brand, hobby shop, whoever we worked with to produce the content. And when I say worked with, I mean we have affiliate relationships with some of them. Other times they just send stuff. But generally speaking, we only make a few bucks when you buy something. And that's why we love it when you guys buy from the links. Because even though we love planes, we don't really care which one you get. We just want you to be satisfied and fully satisfied. This plane is gonna fully satisfy if you're belly landing. If you're wheels up, wheels down, you're probably gonna be off put by it because I just don't think it has the balls to make the F-16 what it should be. I do think it's capable of flying. It's definitely gonna get the job done. It's better than the F-15 that's in the same 64 millimeter size class. Guys, I'm just trying to get all the stuff off of here as I talk. It's crazy.
You mean the F-35, right?
No, I mean the F-15.
Oh.
The F-15 is good, but I like this better.
Okay.
Now, the one thing I like about this is it's not the F-35. It does not fly anything like the F-35, thank God, because the F-35 flew terrible compared to this. Now, is it the worst plane ever? We've actually flown worse planes than the F-35. The F-35 looks amazing. It's fantastically gorgeous. I didn't fly it with the gear off. I probably should have, because the truth is, if you pull the gear off, I bet the F-35 performs a lot like this, because the lackluster performance that you expect with a fully ordinanced battlefield gray F-16 is probably similar to, but not exactly the same, because the F-35 is top heavy and it's got a lot of weird design aspects to it. Oh, and then there's the multi-million-dollar controller that they have in a real F-35. We don't have that either, unfortunately. But you can have this licensed by Northrop Grumman, who makes the F-16 in real life. And if you see, the cheaters are beautiful, really nicely done. These things all work with the landing gear. There's no plug for if you're doing belly landings. And I don't like that these slide on from the front, but they are reinforced in plastic there. So if you're a good enough pilot to put the battery all the way back, which I don't, then you can get this thing tail heavy enough to possibly high alpha onto those things. But you're gonna break your nose off. Mark my words, you will, okay? Final thoughts on this plane. I love it, I wanna fly it more, but I have to go get in a car and drive for 6 hours. What else do I think about this plane? Yes, you can technically use a bigger battery, but I think you'd be crazy and running a fool's errand to do it. However, if you can get a larger 2200 4S and you can stick that in there and have a little bit higher voltage, like a high volt pack, I think you're gonna squeeze so much more life out of this. It might even work with the landing gear. Okay, now, yes, you can land this. Yes, you can slow it down. Yes, the flaperons work and they are effective. Yes, I changed from my original unbox build radio setup from 1X to 2X. I rarely do that, and look where I am. I need to turn down the ailerons just a touch, but everything else is rock solid, and I love the way it is. In terms of safe performance is fine. It's not perfect, but I don't really use safe. I just show you how to set it up in the unbox build radio setup in case you're a beginner. If you're a beginner and you're flying this plane, you're making a bad decision. If you're successful in flying this plane, it's not one of the hardest planes to fly in the EDF realm, but it's certainly not the easiest. I would not recommend starting with this plane to anybody. But if you've already done a couple of EDFs, you'll be fine. Second, third EDF, not a big deal. But if you got the budget for the 80, just get the 80. If you got the budget for the 70, you'll like the Retracts. It will make a better flight experience. However, hold still, mosquito. However, the landing gear make it heavier and a 6S platform, folks. So if you don't have the budget for 6S batteries, you only got 4S batteries, and you wanna stay with the 4S for a little while longer, get this. You'll enjoy it. It's gonna wet your whistle, and you're gonna go straight to the 80. Just skip the 70. Do not pass go. Do not spend $200. Is that the way it goes? Anyway, beautiful plane, absolutely detailed as heck. I love all the details. I'm annoyed that I got all that stupid yellow stuff on it, but it was kind of cool to see the puff. You should have seen it, guys. The other day it was windy out here, and there was just like puffs of pollen. You could see it with the naked eye, which made my naked eyes very uncomfortable. So anyway, that being said, I love this plane. I think you'll love it too, but I am honestly and admittedly a sucker for F-16s. Does that mean this F-16 is perfect for everybody and it can do all things and you can cobra with it and, you know, barrel rolls and, you know, do all the crazy things you want to do? Probably not. There's going to be some system limitations because the power to weight ratio is still questionable. It's got good power to weight. It's just not a lot of top end power. Okay, let's call it that. So you are going to get to an unlimited vertical if you go high enough in the EDF spectrum, but not with this. You're not unlimited. You're gonna have a very good limit. You can see it. It's not even that far up there. And it's pretty much wanting to stall out, okay? Now, does that mean you can't fly it, make it look cool? Absolutely, it does not. You can still fly it, you can still make it look cool, and you will still like this plane. I would highly suggest it. Check it out. It's in the links of the video description below. 64 millimeters of pure delight from FMS. Thanks for the LEDs, FMS. We really, really appreciate the LEDs. We appreciate the fact that Ordinance comes with at least this one. I don't know if the Ordinance comes with the Thunderbirds livery. My guess is it doesn't, because it wouldn't make sense, but it better have at least missile rails. I never want to fly an F-16 without missile rails for two reasons. One, they would never fly an F-16 without missile rails. Even if they're naked and they don't have missiles on them, they're still gonna have missile rails. Sometimes they have dummy missiles on. And then secondly, I think it looks stupid. Thirdly, even if you're flying Thunderbirds, they're still gonna have missile rails, okay? There's not gonna be missiles on it in real life if you're seeing the Thunderbirds. Now, I'm a little bit overspent on the Thunderbirds trim livery myself, but I have a lot of planes that have that, and I do like it, and it's fun, but I'm all about warbirds. Catch. The sky, very easy to see. Blue, this thing wanted to disappear. Really weird, but still truthfully, it was over there. I was having a hard time seeing orientation because this is blending with the sky like it should do. If you want it to stand out like a sore thumb, the Thunderbird scheme will help with that a little bit. So keep those things in mind when you're making your purchase decision. Again, at the end of the day, we just want you to be happy with what you get. And that's why we go into such great detail about what these planes do and in our personal experience. It doesn't mean I'm gonna give you every tech spec of this thing. I don't really care if these digital 9-gram servos are metal geared or plastic geared. I'd rather have metal gear, of course, but the extra weight is not gonna amount to much on a plane like this. I'm not gonna beat them over the head with the fact that these LEDs are not that bright from top and bottom adapters like that. But the truth is they're better than most of what we get. And if they put them on the end of the missile, it would look totally stupid. So this is the way we get them on the F-16. I love it. It's better than nothing, and we still get these, which are very bright. However, the opaque paint does shine through a little bit on the colors, as you can see here, and a little bit on the red, a little bit less noticeable on the red. Also, when and if you install your nose gear, you're gonna have to turn it so you can get the screwdriver down at an angle to hit the grub screw that bites the shaft. If you install the gear are beautiful. If this is a talking piece that sits on your coffee table, put the gear on, put all the ordnance, it is gorgeous. If you're flying it that way, you better be flying high bolts and you better be flying 3 minutes because you're gonna consume the battery with all that extra drag. That being said, great flying experience. Flap rounds actually work. Did I separate out televons? No, I did not. I would not suggest you do it because it is a little bit more work. You have to cut one end off and build another end. We'll go into all the details in the Unbox Build radio setup. So if you have more questions, leave them in the comments below. We'll do our very best. And then full disclosure, I did a grass ops landing, accidental landing, and I ripped off one antenna thingy. It was going here. You'll want to stay tuned for that. It was crazy. And the plane survived and the landing gear did perfect. I couldn't believe it. I made it all the way to the tall grass. I was coming in on basically a pull out of a dive and I just didn't pull out hard enough. And it just went all the way down that hill. It was nuts. No damage anywhere except for that. In fact, one of my landings, the nose popped off and that's the only damage we got on that flight. But as detailed as this thing is, it's done really good on landings. But we also have 5 foot tall grass. Okay, if I was landing on a regular grass, I don't know. If I was landing on geotextile, probably fine, but you're still gonna get rash. Landing on this, it'd be terrible. All right, we answered all your questions and more. NX10 is great for this. We did an AR630 to keep the antenna at bay because it's an internal antenna. I would suggest you do that. If you do a 637T, then that will give you battery pack telemetry, which would be really nice because you could fly it and squeeze every drop out of your battery and not have to give up early. But I can tell you this, after about a 4 to 5 minute flight, we ended up with 22% left on the battery. That was our longest flight. And that was with gear, okay? Right?
Yes.
So stay tuned, guys. So much more coming on this very video. We want you to see the latest and greatest on Brian Phillips RC. We don't make any truth claims like being the best, fastest, cheapest, whatever for these manufacturers because that's not true. The truth is this thing is good for what it's gonna be priced at. It's gonna keep you in a lower price point for batteries, which is really gonna eat up your budget quick if you're into RC and you're new at it. But don't get this if you're a brand new pilot. Get into something that's easy, reliable, and can help you learn to fly. You need the basics before you get into EDFs. I don't care what other people online are telling you. It is incorrect. They have forgotten how hard it is to fly these things. I haven't forgotten. I should someday, but I won't. All right, that's all you get. Stay tuned, more flights coming. And don't forget to check out the Unbox Build radio setup if you're curious how we did this. Come back for more. YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Look at this. All new F-16 from FMS, absolutely gorgeous, decked out with all sorts of ordnance, beautiful scale details all over this thing, just like its bigger counterpart, and that would be the 80 and the 70. And I can tell you this thing went together relatively easy. All the ordnance slides off, steerable nose gear, but they're fixed. 64 millimeter EDF, ventral fins do slide off. And so if you decide to belly land this, you can belly land it without ripping everything off. But we're gonna start with wheels up, wheels down, full ordnance on our very first maiden flight. So stay tuned. All right, available in gray, just like we've got, they call it battlefield gray. Takeoff flaps, landing flaps. I'm gonna go to takeoff flaps. Actually, I'm just gonna go no flaps right now. There is thrust reverse. I have it set to switch G. Unbox Build radio setup will teach you how to do that if you don't know how to do it. The Predator ESC has the channel. Here we go. Ooh, really, really good performance. Oh, yes. That's 75% throttle there. Looks absolutely fantastic in the air. We've definitely got a lot of wind. Those day bright LEDs are great. Full throttle. Get that thing right through that fireball and then down the runway. Here we come. Man, it looks gorgeous. Too bad those gear are fixed. Okay, pushing the nose down. Really reasonably good control. There's a decent amount of power. It's not like a powerhouse. You're not gonna find that on 64s. I'm about 70% throttle. This is just a smart pack. It's not like we're flying on HMC high voltage or something crazy like that. This is just your ordinary run-of-the-mill stuff. Turned up my gains just a hair on the AS3X. Now what we're gonna do is this baby blue sky is really challenging to film. But the thing is, if you guys are gonna fly it, I would not recommend flying it with all the ordnance for a Maiden, but it's gonna get you in the air looking absolutely sweet. Now, also I gotta say, in terms of gains, it feels controllable, but feels a little bit understable. It's not anything as bad as the F-35, but it looks dang good. Looks a lot better than the F-35 if you ask me. But at the same time, what we're dealing with here is get the plane flying. Holy cow, talk about a landing gear test. I literally did not mean to do that, guys. That was a total accident, and we just rolled it out. I think it actually did okay. We're gonna find out. I put it in the grass here. You can see the tracks, and I just didn't pull up quite enough. So we're gonna see if we damaged it. I bet we got some grass and stuff, might have knocked an ordnance off, but I went right over the septic lids and everything. I cannot believe the grass ops. That was totally unscheduled. Okay, throttle cut is on. Our timer is down to 58 seconds, so I'm gonna clear the timer. Let's go ahead and see how bad we screwed it up. You've gotta be kidding me. That is amazing, guys. You gotta be kidding me, look at that. I didn't even damage it, I just picked up some grass seed. What are the chances? Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. That was crazy. I promise you, I didn't mean to do that. We're gonna turn around here and we're gonna film this way and show you where that grass is, okay? So that is crazy, I just did that. I totally didn't mean to. And we're gonna reset and keep flying. Okay, so we're gonna pop off the ordnance just to show you that this stuff can all come off. Here on Brian Phillips RC, we like to show you the whole experience and not just the highlights. That's one of the reasons why long format is a dying format, because it is a little bit harder to get everything and try to make a cohesive video. Sometimes they're not so dang cohesive. Look, I did break one. See? Okay. Which is fine. I'm glad I pulled them off now. And to be honest, these are what I would expect to see on an F-16. But I'm still gonna pull everything off except for the wingtips. Man, those look so good though. Oh, it kills me to do this. That's not broke, it's just missing gray paint there. And as you can see, everything goes on and off pretty easy the second time. The first time we did struggle to get these slid on there. And one other thing I gotta mention, I cannot believe the landing gear did so good in that landing. This forward cant must be part of the design features to handle grass ops. But I'm just gonna tell you this right now. My initial experience with this, notwithstanding the fact that I hit the ground, I did not mean to hit the ground. I think I got sucked in by the tips of the grass, just barely cleared. And I gotta say, oh yeah, let's pull that out. Good catch. And if you guys ever need to do some trimming on your grass, this thing works really nice. So, without further ado, no damage. It just kind of squished the foam a little bit where the grass got squished in there. So, I mean, I actually am amazed that it just survived that. I thought it was gone for sure. But the way it just kept rolling, I'm thinking, okay, well, let's see how it turns out. By the way, if you're brand new to the RC hobby and you're just getting started in fixed wing aircraft, EDFs are not the easiest way to start. So don't start on an EDF. But I gotta say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there's one really crazy set screw here. You have to turn the wheel to get at it from an angle. Otherwise, your screwdriver will be going where there is a body of an airplane. So you gotta turn that and then run the screw out. You can pull all the landing gear out. That strut just goes down in there. It just goes back and braces it. Okay, so we're gonna reset and take off.
Okay, Brian's inside switching out the battery, and he just pulled this one that was in the plane. So this one was at 55%, and that was after 2 minutes, almost exactly 2 minutes of flight time. So we're gonna switch out to a new 4S 2200, and we'll be right back.
All right, so I said we're gonna reset. We got all the ordnance off. We did throw in a new pack, 55%, as the camera crew showed you. So we're gonna see, we are gonna actually intentionally use about 10 feet less of the runway, just to show you the thing gets off the ground good. Lots of drag with ordnance. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe how lucky I was. That's crazy. Okay, throttle cuts off. And if I haven't mentioned it, we do have thrust reverse. As you can see, it does work. We're not sure if it's gonna be effective for landings, but we'll try to test that here. Okay, here we go. Into the full throttle. Oh yeah. Dude, it's so much better now. I mean, the ordinance was killing the performance. And so were the gear, to be honest. But I just gotta say, look at the scale lines. They have really got this one dialed in for looks. I just don't know if I can get past the fixed gear, folks. I gotta say, I am a sucker for gray. You can also get it in Thunderbirds. Gosh, I forgot to mention that earlier, didn't I? Mm-hmm. So if you're into Thunderbirds, which I have like 3 of them, I'm not a huge fan of the Thunderbirds livery. I love it, but I want ordnance. I wanna see it like a warbird should be, with killing machines attached to the wings. So now I gotta say, I think you're gonna see some other influencers doing some crazy jazz with this plane, because the thing has all the right, it has all the right tricks up its sleeve, with the exception of the fact that the sleeves are gonna be left on because the gear are down, folks. You can only do so much with a gear fixed setup. But I gotta say, it looks really dang good doing it. And I gotta say, the same thing was true for the F-35, but this thing is nothing like the F-35 in its flight performance. It's easy to get away with maneuvering like you expect it to be. You've got enough power to move the plane, which is really helpful. I really would like to see this thing fly on a little bit more power, just to see if you could really power through some of the things that you wanna do. Upside down flight performance is just fine. See, I topped out my power curve there at the top of that maneuver. And then I wanna see how high alpha is. I'm just gonna get out of the throttle a little bit. I'm kind of going the wrong way. I gotta do it on the other pass here. Okay, so here we go. Getting into the situation here. Let's slow it down, bring it into high alpha. We have lots of rudder up. Yep, that's all you got. That's all you got. I can't quite high alpha it. I've got the battery strapped in both straps right now. If you wanna high alpha this F-16, you're probably gonna have to bring that battery back just a little bit more. And that's gonna help you do it. Now, you can high alpha to a certain extent, but you gotta do it with some pace behind you. See what I'm talking about, guys? How it just wants to slip. It doesn't violently stall when you've got AS3X and or safe, but I'm gonna just show you safe here. Okay, here's safe, so you can see it auto leveled. We got limited bank angles, a little bit janky on the let go of the sticks because it's wanting to snap it back to level. We got a little bit of downhill trajectory. All you have to do is go into forward programming and scroll that just a little bit more nose up. Our timer is coming up. We are gonna respect the timer. Okay, out of safe. Here we go, turning up the gains just kind of a little bit actually. See if it helps stabilize it just a little bit more. I'm on 1X, and I feel like it could use a little bit more stabilization, just to be clear. And I gotta say, this plane, it needs a whole lot more vetting than what we're gonna do in this video, because I think it's a great plane, and I'm gonna try to land it. The wind trajectory is light, but it's still coming in all directions, so it's very challenging to tell. I really wanna tell if the flaps are necessary or helpful. Okay, so takeoff flaps. Ooh, they help. Landing flaps, look at this, look at this, look at this. Okay, seeing if I can get another pass. I guess we'll get lucky if we do, right? Because we're pretty much out of, we had about probably 30% left. Okay, takeoff flaps. Now landing flaps. That thing is doing great with flaperons, folks. So excited to report that. That's flaperons, guys. Look at this. Oh, yes. Woo! And that's why we don't like the Predator ESC for thrust reverse. I went into pilot fatigue, and that's why that landing got ruined. Okay, you guys know what I'm talking about. If you don't, what's going on is I go to the thrust reverse, and in our unboxed build radio setup, I will literally show you what happens when you go to pilot fatigue. And as I back taxi up our little hill, I'm gonna just show you what I'm talking about. It is gonna go to thrust reverse, and pilot fatigue setting just does not work when you use these Predator ESCs. Look at the droop, get down low so they can see the droop on the ailerons. Oh, that is so dang beautiful, guys. Look at this, look at this. That tipsy-turvy behavior was when I tried to initiate pilot fatigue. Let's see if it works this time. Yep, of course it works when you don't need it. Throttle cuts on, let's talk about this right now. Very important concept. Avian ESC, E-flite offerings. Yes, pilot fatigue works. Pilot fatigue is where I go, throttle cuts on, it won't do it now, all the way back, full thrust, reverse thrust, helps arrest the motion of the plane without having to do this, which is very unnatural when you're landing, okay? So when you land an EDF, you have to let the EDF spool up so you can get throttle. I am very, very happy to report the thrust reverse does work, but mostly for back taxi. I would not plan on bringing it in under thrust reverse unless you're ready to have it shoot up like I did, okay? Also, this thing suffers from the same thing that every other F-16 I've ever had and that is that it does this. It goes tricycle down, really inboard narrow, and it tips on its own axis. Very, very quick and easy, hard to avoid unless you really grease the landing, which to be honest, I felt like that was pretty greasy for a maiden flight because technically I didn't land it over there. It landed itself. I was just a pilot watching it happen, okay? So press the release, pop the hood. You can see where our battery is. Now, you want to high alpha this in and don't do flaperons because you don't have to do flaperons, which by the way, super easy. The Y cable's up here. Makes it really easy to do. This could easily be slid back here and you could get that CG way back. Also, this is designed for 2200 to 2600 4S. Beautiful day bright LEDs on the wingtips and the tail. The tail one is very easy to see because of its omnidirectional behavior. These ones are directional on top and bottom, but because they're undermined from the direct view by the ordinance and just the way that the whole system works, this is one of my biggest complaints on ordnance equipped smaller planes is that these rails should be part of the plane still. You won't see an F-16 flying without missile rails. The missile rails are an integral part of the wing, okay? So this is a licensed Northrop Grumman product, okay? So it's very good. It's got amazing scale lines, as you can see by looking at every beautiful angle of it. Now, am I excited about having a plane without retracts? The answer to that would be no. Am I excited about the fact that this thing flies good and when I put down flaperons, I can actually slow it down and fly it in and flare it for landing still? I am absolutely thrilled about that. I'm gonna tell you, my biggest complaint on 64s is when you don't have enough plane power, you don't have enough of the normal things. By the way, huge cheater here. You see this huge cheater, but they've hidden them better than the greats that we're used to seeing because they would normally fall about here. EDF is right here, very easy to get to. Also, when we built ours, we had to do a little fancy maneuvering to get that clean, and you'll want to watch the unboxed build radio setup so you can find out what we did. Guys, this plane is really good. Is it everything since sliced bread? Is it the best? Is it the latest and greatest, the cat's meow? No, it's not. Here's why. It's got fixed gear. If I'm flying a high performance jet, I want those gear out of the scene, okay? Now, does that mean you can't come in here and land it in tall grass like this? Absolutely. If you have access to tall grass like that, that's perfect. Are you gonna land this thing on top of the ventral fins? I think not. You're gonna have to pop these off. They are a little bit challenging to get off. Just to show you, I can barely get it off. I'm not gonna take it off. Yes, you can land with the ventral fins. They put plastic here. Do I recommend it? Absolutely, I don't, okay? If you do that, you're gonna probably rip them off on the first, second flight, maybe third flight. But you can high alpha this in and plop it on the ground. Now, that's not the way I pilot my aircraft, and I'm not telling you you can't pilot your aircraft that way if you want to. That's between you, yourself, and your flying community to argue about it, okay? What I am gonna say is this. The thing is capable of flying really well. High voltage packs are gonna squeeze a little bit more juice out of this. I'm sure it's gonna just put it over the top and it's really gonna make this thing feel good. And I just wanna remind you guys, some of our competitors on YouTube, they do really good content, it's just not us, okay? The truth is we fly standard packs, we don't fly high volt packs. That doesn't mean we won't ever, but this is just a standard smart pack, plenty of life for most planes. One of the areas we found that they do suffer a little bit is on EDF planes because they just don't quite put them over the top, okay? I wish that the manufacturers would start designing these to run on a standard size pack rather than run on high volt, because I feel like some of the more advanced, heavier, more ordnance, things like that, kind of like what we saw here where I didn't quite pull out. That was a mistake on my part. It wasn't the plane's mistake. It wasn't like I didn't have enough elevator to pull out. I just simply didn't do it, by the way. Just to be totally clear, we want to be transparent on Brian Phillips RC because at the end of the day, we know you're making purchase decisions. And purchase decisions should not be made based on how good a pilot I am or how good a pilot you know, the person reviewing the plane is. It should be based on what the plane could do. This thing is light on its feet. It's very, very good, except for the fixed gear. I'm telling you, the fixed gear for me is basically a killer on most aspects of this. I'm gonna tell you the truth though, F-35 flew terrible. This thing flies great. Airframe difference, F-35 probably has more controls going on it in a real F-35. Okay, so the airframe is gonna be a little bit less understable. It's gonna be inherently a little bit higher on the center of mass. This thing is gonna be more mid-wing to high wing. That one's down low and the body sits up on top. So it's almost like you're flying this upside down with the canopy up here. Okay, you got all the weight up here. This plane, it hangs down low. So the gear are gonna perform some function in the stability of the aircraft. It's also gonna introduce a lot of unnecessary drag. Rock hard tires didn't seem to be a problem when we were going through the grass, and it didn't seem to be a problem putting it down. But I'll tell you what, there is zero grace, zero forgiveness when you get any rudder impact. But I do have to also point out one thing we had to do in our unbox build radio setup, which you're gonna see when you watch it, is that little doohickey that turns the steerable nose gear, I have it 2 splines off to get it square. Not a good problem to have, because the only way to fix that is to pull this all apart and machine the flat of the shaft that slides in and then is received by the grub screw. Otherwise you can't straighten it. There's no other way to do it. You have to take it out, machine it square, put it back in, and hope for the best. So that means I have severe limitations in one direction of travel. But again, I think the vast majority of you, if you're flying this thing, you're gonna be flying it in a tight environment. You're gonna be flying it close to home. You're gonna be flying it where you could just put down in the grass. I would say 90% of the people that are interested in this aircraft are gonna fly it with the gear off. I just happen to be a wheels up, wheels down guy. I love it. And I know you guys probably think, with this short runway, are you serious? With this hemmed in area with trees on all 3 sides? You know, truth is, I love wheels up. I love wheels down. I love being able to put stuff down on this little aircraft carrier we call a runway, okay? That's why we built the damn runway, or we're gonna be building it. If you haven't seen the footage yet, we're gonna be putting out footage soon to talk about the damn runway. The damn runway is gonna be a wider, longer, more robust, and also access for when we have a crosswind day like this, also getting the building a little bit further away from the turbulation, but we still have tree lines to deal with. We still have a little bit of a lull in the geography and topography. So guys, stay tuned. If you like seeing that stuff in real life from Brian Phillips RC, you're gonna wanna click the bell when you subscribe so you get notified of all the new content. This stuff comes out all the time, and we're here trying to be first on the case so you can decide if you like it or not. Now, that's to be said, there's other people out there, they're gonna tell you lots of other things, and I'm not saying they're wrong, but our focus is get people back in the air that took a hiatus from their kids being young and they were too busy, or they moved to a place where they didn't have a good flying field, or whatever it is, maybe an injury or illness that took you away from the field for a while, death in the family. There's a million good reasons that you stop flying RC. None of them are good enough to keep you out of RC for the rest of your life, okay? Let's get back in the air. You're gonna love it. The technology is amazing. The price points are lower than you've ever expected. Not free, not cheap, but lower than they were, I promise you. The technology we've got in these transmitters, we're gonna help you exploit that technology and get the best you can out of these amazing planes, okay? But at the end of the day, the best way you can support Brian Phillips RC and my wife camera crew, Megan, she has a name, that's right. The way you can support us is smash the like button right now, watch the videos through the whole length. Long format is a dying concept. We are eventually gonna be forced out of it. I promise you, YouTube will eventually make shorter limits. Right now our videos are huge, they're very long. Okay, this is not gonna be an example of one of them. If you guys haven't seen them, you can make toilet wine a couple of times during an unbox, okay? But the best way you can support us is buy these things from the links in the video description below. That's how we fund our channel. That's how we fund all these crazy projects and our aerodrome that we're building right now. And we really appreciate you being a part of it. We also are one of the few channels that have manned aircraft in Class G airspace that fly over our very, very close to our property. That guy is close. I wonder if that's our buddy. But anyway, hopefully it is, because all I got to say is this. We love airplanes. We stop to film them. That's how dorky we are. We love this stuff. We're not faking it for the camera. We're not doing it because we're bored. We're not doing it because we got nothing else to do. We love this. We are dedicated to this. And we're in it for the long haul, which is both good and bad depending on if you're the camera crew. Because I love this stuff. Now, at the end of the day, if you want this thing and you want to get the best out of it, I'm just going to tell you right now, even though the gear are absolutely fantastic looking and they kind of work okay, given it's an F-16 that wants to tip on you like that, because I'm telling you, every F-16 we have does that. I'm going to just tell you this, they are gorgeous, but they need the heck off of this plane, because I'm going to tell you, this thing really needs to be flown belly landed, and that's just the way it needs to be. And I can't believe I'm saying I'm going to do this, because I love this plane. It's absolutely gorgeous, but we're going to do one more flight and we're going to do it with wheels off. Stay tuned.
Okay.
All right, guys, so we wanted to give you a shot of the voltage, and also we're taking off the landing gear inside. If you haven't seen this, this is an involved process. I'm going to bring the plane stand over and just show you something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I turned the servo. You guys see what I'm talking about? Show them the servo, because I can't tip it anymore. I turned it all the way to one side. It could be either side. And that allows you to get in here with your 1.5 millimeter. You're going to show them this by chance? There is a set screw in here. And this was one of those things in the unbox build radio setup that really frustrated me bad. Because I'm going to tell you something. First of all, this is not quick release. This is not something you're going to do in the, very easily in the flight field. And you have to take the set screw all the way out. Otherwise you can't lift it out of the hole. So you should just keep turning until you feel it clicking, and then it pulls out. Okay, then you can slide this out. Okay, so even though the technology works and there is spring loading, the spring loading is pretty stiff, and it is hard to do that because most people are going to try to leave it in there and you can't fit it through the hole then. Okay, so we're going to reset, come back. What was the voltage on that pack?
22.
22% left? Wow, that's a lot. So that means we could probably get a 4-minute flight, probably closer to 5. I don't like dead sticking EDFs because we usually end in failure and lots of tears. Okay, so we'll be right back to fly. Okay, folks, so one of the biggest issues I have with this plane is the fixed gear, as I mentioned. And I'm just gonna tell you, they go on and off really good, but it's a lot of steps for fixed gear on a plane that you might wanna fly in both configurations. Because I know a lot of you are gonna fly at flying fields where you're gonna have access to doing belly landings. And then the other thing too I'm not crazy about is there's this extra screw up here, and there's not really a good way to stow the screw because the plastic, okay, so you see what's gonna happen is this thing's gonna be in here and it's gonna be like stuck out. I usually like to put the hardware back in as much as possible, but I can't really do that. And so obviously these ones I wanna put in because they're gonna help make the belly smooth, except then you have this high point. So this all has to come out. So look what we're left with. Look at this, if you're at the flight field, you gotta bring all this crap with you, and if you forget it, and this, you need 2 different sizes. You need a 1.5 to take off the nose gear, and you need a 2 to take off the mains. And then right here, you see this? This was a forward facing, I think it's actually a pitot tube, but either way, it might be some sort of a radar issue on the real one. But the truth is, all those things add up to fixed gear. Really? Come on, man. This thing is so good. But if you add retracts, you add a lot of cost and you add a lot of complexity and you add a lot of weight. And so I think that's what they were thinking. All right, stay tuned, guys. So much more right around the corner from Brian Phillips RC. We hope we answered all your questions on this FMS 64 millimeter EDFs. Absolutely beautiful plane, gorgeous detailed plane. If you want something that's a showpiece, you can get it as a showpiece because it's absolutely that good looking. But if you're gonna do it as a showpiece, build yourself some landing gear doors and add those on. It'll look even more fantastic on your showpiece counter. And then make all that stuff stick to the landing gears so that when you pull them off, you can go ahead and just put that stuff away and then have a flying beast. Because this thing will do everything you want to do, but it's just not gonna do retracts, which to me, I don't know, that's gonna close the deal for me, but it might not for you. And we don't need to make up anybody else's mind. We wanna help you guys make your own mind up. If you don't like this, and you wanna go to the 70, full disclosure, the tail decals went super smooth on this, looked absolutely gorgeous, and were easy to do. They didn't have any stupid pink film on them. The last time I did decals that were wet decals from FMS, I could not get the pink off of anything. So you'll notice all my competitors on YouTube didn't put the decals on, probably because they had the same problem I did, except for one, I think. When I put the decals on, these ones all come on, we had to fix this, but these ones we had to put on, and we put them on in minutes. I was complaining up and down about how hard it was gonna be, and it was just on the vertical stab, so you can pick your squadron. But a lot less detailed than you're gonna get on the 80 millimeter offering that's very similar. And by the way, make no mistake, this thing looks every bit as good as the 80, but without super gorgeous functioning retracts. It's not even in the same class, but it flies dang near as good. So stay tuned. So much more from Brian Phillips RC. Not sure what order you're gonna see this. So if you're seeing this at the end, one more quick shot as we close out the video. This thing is fantastic. You need one in your hangar if you don't mind compromising on how terrible the bottom looks after you belly land it about 50 times. Because the truth is, if you can just look at this side, it's gonna be fine. But as you can see, it also does grass hops by accident. Stay tuned. So much more from Brian Phillips RC, and thanks for watching. Okay guys, I forgot to talk about this, sorry. Go into forward programming. You also notice for my hand launch, I'm gonna put this back just a hair. This is my mark, so it was actually back here. I wanna be able to get into high alpha a little better. So I'm gonna go to gyro settings. I'm gonna go to safe settings, safe, fixed adjust gains, safe gains. Where is that? Flight mode 1. Okay, so that's not what I want. Maybe it's under AS3X settings. AS3X gains, no. Where is that thing? I know it's in here. It's like under system setup. Really? It changes its position, guys. Orientation, nope. No, safe panic mode setup. There it is. Attitude trim. This is normally in the first time safe setup menu, but the pitch is -5. See, -5 would be nose down, okay? Nose down or nose up, I want that positive. So I don't want it at, in fact, I wanna just, geez, that like went way up. I think I'm gonna just go with 0, okay? It went to -5, but our receiver must have been canted just so. Well, I noticed when I turned safe on, it was kind of nose down attitude. I wanna make it at least level attitude. So that 5 degrees or 5 percentage points or whatever this is, that's gonna make a big difference when we do turn safe on. Granted, we don't really fly with safe on this plane. So hopefully we answered your questions, guys. Sorry for that last little tidbit. Stay tuned, so much more from Brian Phillips RC. Thanks for watching, come back for more. YouTube, it's Brian Phillips, F-16 64mm from FMS. It is so pretty, and yet it's got fixed gear, so I couldn't resist. I almost never do this for you because I love wheels up, wheels down, and this does come so that you can add flaperons very easy. All you have to do is pull a Y cable off and then configure your radio system. We'll show you how to do it. And yes, they are effective. Full disclosure, I slid my battery back just a hair. This is our 3rd flight. You see this, I'm back at an inch back from being just kind of neutral, centered back a little bit on the straps. You can see in the unboxed build radio setup how that balances out. In fact, I've got the marks for the CG, so I'm just gonna go ahead and put my fingers on the marks for the CG. We did an unscheduled landing. Yep, it's a little bit tail heavy, so my balance point is about another 10mm back from where they recommend. I turned up to 2X, and I've got the master gains in the center because I was finding that I was almost to the top of the range, and so I'm gonna go 2X. I can go a little bit below center, and that should get me about even to what I was. Throttle cuts off, no flaps for takeoff. I could actually technically turn safe on for this, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna show you how it works. And you guys see the wind, it's blowing toward me. So I'm gonna launch this way with tall grass as a backup plan. Full throttle. Oh yeah, get her in the air. Okay, now I'm gonna back off the throttle right away. Preserve that battery life. You should be able to get 4 to 5 minutes depending on how you fly. We were at 22% left. I think we had about 4 minutes. Look how stinking gorgeous that is. Guys, that was half throttle on that pass. Roll rate's pretty anemic as configured. What I would suggest doing is if you wanna get this thing doing crazy stuff, get the gear off. This thing is draggy beast with those gear. No more unscheduled landings, Brian. Oh, it's so beautiful. Look at this, guys. Guys, that's a 40% pass. Just blue skies, worst thing you can possibly film in, folks, for RC, in case you didn't know. I'm at 50%, sub 50% power. You can notice a little bit of wing rock. That's because my gains are higher than usual. I'm actually turning those up a little bit. I'm just wanting to see how the high alpha turns out. And what we're gonna do is on the next pass, oh yes, look at that, high alpha. And with the wind just a little bit, but not quite enough power. You gotta get that center of gravity back even further if you hope to really fly it in high alpha. But you can get enough in our configuration to get a landing. Guys, we love doing this stuff for you. It's harder than it looks to hit all the weather windows and to do all the weird things that we do in our videos. So we appreciate your patronage. If you want to help support Brian Phillips RC, best thing you can do is buy one of these amazing planes for yourself. If you like it, if you're not into taking the landing gear off of a plane, I would not get this one. I would get one that has retracts. Okay, the 70 is an amazing plane. It's very good, but the only thing I don't like about that plane is the decals. It flies very good. I love the gray livery. If you want Thunderbirds, you can get Thunderbirds, folks. Checking my timer. I did not set up any telemetry. If I were to use a 637T, I could have done pack telemetry, or not so much pack telemetry, but pack voltage, flight pack voltage, which would help me with battery life. I chose not to do that because I wanted to use a 630, which was a little bit more compact and a little bit less antenna to deal with. That wing rock can be fixed by two ways. One, scroll down the gains back to 1X, turn the right knob all the way up, or you can just change the setting for the AS3X gains on the ailerons a little bit. Okay, now we're gonna do a takeoff flaps and a landing flaps. Here's the landing flaps. Absolutely gorgeous flight performance. Look at this flight performance, guys. 50% pass. Good roll authority, still enough to get it done. Manned aircraft going overhead. You wanna just do a quick check for me, camera crew?
Behind and going.
Okay, but low.
But low, yes.
Okay. All right, good. They're high enough. We're totally thousands of feet away. Okay, take off flaps, landing flaps. Look at this, inside pass, guys. Look at this. Now, one thing I have to say that's notable is this thing, okay, that's our timer about to elapse. One thing I can tell you about this plane is that it will do all the crazy stuff you want, but I would not recommend maidening your plane doing all the crazy stuff you want it to do, because you might only get one flight out of it. Look at those LEDs on the front of the body. So gorgeous, day brights. You can actually see them downhill, full landing flaps. Look at this. Oh yeah, that is just absolutely fantastic. Good flight performance. We're at about a 45-degree angle from the wind on that pass. We're going up, we're gonna roll and then come back down. See if we can get this pass. Just remember, with flaperons, you're gonna lose your roll authority to a certain extent, and so you wanna make sure you don't run into your camera crew while doing slow passes. Also, the wind is pushing the plane back toward us, and we'll show you safe real quick. Here's safe. Okay, so we should be good for about another 30 seconds to a minute of flight time. I'm just gonna show you with safe, gear off, the thing flies really good. Let's show full landing flaps. Watch that thing with safe. Just kind of trying to demonstrate for you. We got a good angle at 0 now. And all I'm gonna do is just fly this thing around. Imagine I didn't know how to fly. This thing's gonna give you just enough help to keep that thing doing what you want it to do, okay? It is not gonna put battery in your pack. It is certainly not gonna fly the plane for you, but even with flaps down, this thing is doing great. Okay, so here we go. Out of throttle, we're gonna go ahead and just put it down. Okay, here we go. So a little bit of throttle here. Take off flaps, landing flaps. We're gonna slow it down. I wanna try to put it down in the tall grass, folks. Oh man, I don't like that pass. Okay, so just quiet so I can hear the EDF, Brian. Oh, it's still spooling up just fine. I thought maybe we were losing it. Okay, so we're gonna go up over here, do a different line. We got a weird crosswind today. Okay, so lots of turbulence and rotor over the top of those trees. Full landing flaps, here we go. Let's slow it down. Okay, here we go. Let's just put it down right. That's good enough for me. Okay, of course, short grass there, but that's what you get. One thing I gotta say, beautiful ventral fins, hard to get off, harder than any of the ordnance. If you're gonna land this like a normal runway approach, you're gonna probably have to take the ventral fins off. I don't wanna give up the ventral fins in a windy day. I want that extra vertical stability, or I guess that'd be like a roll axis stability. It's stability in all directions, to be honest. And so I don't wanna give it up. Stay tuned, let's go look at it. We have found the crash landing site. Okay, so camera crew is gonna go to the edge of where I knocked it down with the tractor. Okay, so full disclosure, throttle cut's on. The nose cone is off, not broken, it just popped off. This has a little pressure tab in it. I'm gonna grab it by the wings, inboard portion of the wing, and just lift it out of the grass. Slowly trying to walk it back, because the tall grass likes to get trapped in the ordnance. And as you can see, looks pretty dang good. I don't think we did any damage at all. It just came in, but I gotta say that grass really likes to get trapped. Let's see if this goes back on. And it does. Okay, so number one fear for me when I get an EDF jet that's gonna have fixed gear. Am I gonna be able to belly land this thing? Or am I gonna struggle to fly the thing because I wanna do wheels up, wheels down and have an underpowered dog? I'm just gonna tell you this right now. If you wanna fly this thing with the fixed gear, there's some of the most beautiful fixed gear we've ever seen on a regular 64 millimeter EDF. It's one of the lighter 64s we've ever had. There's not a full functioning stabilator. That's gonna turn some of you off. You can split these up and do televons. I did not. I just did elevators and I did ailerons, but I did flaperons as well, okay? Because we have 6 channels to work with, I had to give something up, and it was either thrust reverse, which that's, oops, pilot fatigue. I have my throttle cut on. See, pilot fatigue. Forward thrust, guys. That's not pilot fatigue. This is thrust reverse. Throttle cuts off, a little bit of throttle. Now it's thrust reverse. That's why we don't recommend the Predator ESC for thrust reverse, especially with pilot fatigue. If you're putting it on a pond, on a Cessna 182 that they just released, amazing plane by the way, or you're putting it on something like a PA-18 where you might want to back up from reeds or slow down your landings a little bit, totally fine. On a jet, it just doesn't work. You need 100% reliability on stuff like thrust reverse, okay? Now, I'm not saying FMS told us about thrust reverse. I have a sneaky suspicion we told them about thrust reverse, which is kind of weird because I never heard them talking about it before we brought it up and others brought it up. But the truth is, there's an extra yellow line that comes off of the, basically the servo lead. You have the regular 3 wires, and then you have a yellow one that's off to the side. It's not true on an Avian. That's a programming lead on an Avian. On these, you use a separate channel and you can turn it on and turn it off to activate thrust reverse if you'd like it. Here's the catch. It doesn't always turn on. Kind of a big deal, okay? I might be doing something wrong. I hope somebody corrects me. Please, somebody, if you're out there, correct me. I'd like to know what I'm doing wrong if we are doing it wrong, okay? We're gonna pause and come back. All right, so in closing, guys, F-16 from FMS, 64 millimeters. It's gonna do what it does. It's got a rudder. I can't complain about that. The thing flies amazing, but it's gonna be basically handicapped severely because the retracts don't exist. It's fixed gear. Now, that being said, if you know you're gonna be doing belly landings all the time, then who cares, right? I don't. I would rather have skid plates. I would rather have these things designed to do belly landings. I guarantee you, you're gonna rip them off in the first few landings unless you got really tall grass like we do, and we produce hay. So if you don't produce hay, you don't have hay piles sitting in your yard, you're probably not gonna have grass that tall. I can tell you that from experience. And even with that, you tend to jack these things. You see that little gap that we got developing? That will eventually rip off the ordnance, and then you'll be flying along and you have ordnance come off. It's very frustrating for me. I've seen it a million times. And I just want you guys to have the full truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean this plane is bad, and it doesn't mean it's not highly recommended, because it is powerful, it is light, it is beautiful, beautiful scale detail, and it makes up for any of its shortcomings with just being good, okay? If you're gonna do a fixed gear landing gear, at least make them good. And they made them good, okay? Except for the tires, which are rock hard diamond sharpening blades. Why don't we have soft tires is beyond me. But at the same time, we also accidentally did grass ops for you. We ran all the way down that hill with the landing gear. You guys will see it coming up next. Not sure if this is gonna be the first video, if this will be the last part of our maiden flight voyage with this F-16. But I gotta say, generally, I don't even fly them with the retracts, or excuse me, with the fixed gear off, because I just like wheels up, wheels down. It's what I do. Also, I wanna say this. The flaperons actually work, guys, which is amazing. They don't always seem to work on F-16. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. I think it has to do with the lightness. I think it has to do with the power system. I think it has to do with where you put the battery. I do feel like the wingtip would be a little bit better. The wing tipping would be a little bit better if I kicked down my AS3X gains on only the aileron axis. And if I put that forward, I feel like we would have still been good for our landings. But getting into high alpha configuration, you just don't quite have it. And if you go to a 2600, you're gonna be pushed all the way back to that bulkhead, okay? I'm just telling you right now from personal experience, it's gonna high alpha better if you do all that stuff. And it's also gonna high alpha better if you do high volt packs. We don't run high volt packs because we know a lot of you don't also, but we do run the smart packs, and it's been acceptable. 30C, 2200 4S. That's what we ran on. That's what we'll link to. If you guys want to support Brian Phillips RC, look no further than the links in the video description below. We will get you guys set with enough to get in the air from the chair. We're going to show you exactly how to set it up in the unbox build radio setup. If you don't know how to and you need help, trust me, watch the video. Then watch the entire Maiden, listen, and follow the instructions that we suggest, and you'll be able to fly that thing, okay? The truth is, these jets are harder to fly. It is not a beginner plane. I don't care what idiot online tells you this is a beginner plane. If you're flying this as a beginner, you're an extraordinary, skilled, unusual nuance of the hobby, okay? Don't fly this as a beginner. You will fail, okay? I promise you. The F-15 was safe, is easier, but you really kind of need to go with a Habu if you want a jet. For your first jet, it's a good idea. It's cheap. It's going to get you in the air. Get the 50. Don't spend a bunch of money. Keep it on 4S. You'll be fine, guys. Or 3S. I can't even remember if that flies on 3S or 4S. It's been so long. But anyway, it's going to be like flying a trainer. Guys, you get this, you're going to have to know how to fly. Okay, truth? Now, if you really want retracts, just get the 70. You're going to love it. It's a great plane. FMS makes it. A couple other manufacturers make it. FMS makes them for the other manufacturers. You still get good liveries, but it's not as good as this. It's going to be a little bit less detailed, a little bit less features. I don't think the LEDs are quite as good if there are LEDs. I don't even think there are LEDs on that. But you go up to the 80 and you're going to LEDs. We got LEDs here. We got LEDs here. And we got a bright LED here, all day bright. Beautiful, outdone themselves FMS has on this model, but I still can't get past the retracts because it's a jet. When I see this thing going by, I want those retracts retracted, and I love the process of watching them retract. And since I'm a wheels up, wheels down scale pilot, meaning I don't go around doing cobras and stuff like that, I just don't care to do that stuff. And there's nothing against it, guys. If you like doing cobras, if you like doing crazy rolls, you like setting your rates to 2,000%, replacing every servo, rebuilding the plane from the ground up, that's fine. We don't want to poo-poo anybody else's experience, but what we do want to do is we want to improve everybody's odds of success. When you're brand new in this hobby, it's hard. There's a lot of people telling you a lot of things. It's hard to tell who to listen to. We're going to give you good advice that's sound, it's manageable, and it's not over the top, okay? We used to do a lot more mods and stuff like that. We have learned that people don't modify planes near as much as we think, and so we want to get you guys in the air. Then you can start playing with features, okay? We're here to support you. All right, here on Brian Phillips RC, we try to do right by you every time we make a video, and that's why we don't praise every single aspect of every plane, because that's just a bunch of malarkey and it's a waste of your time. So come back when you're ready for the full truth, nothing but the truth, so help us God. I'm Brian Phillips RC. We love RC planes. We love full-scale aviation. That's why we spent so much money on this property, so we can build an aerodrome with a full-scale airstrip and eventually a helipad. It's going to be awesome. We want you guys here for every step of the way, so make sure you subscribe, click the bell for notifications. And when you want to support us financially, we got Patreon, PayPal, YouTube Super Thanks, and YouTube members, both of which are monthly support mechanisms. YouTube Super Thanks and PayPal would be for just one-time donations if you want to do that. But we don't even really want the donations. We want you buying planes, buying from the links. Let those guys pay us. Everybody wins. They sell planes. That's what they want. We want planes, but we pretend like we don't, so they'll pay us. And then we do. So it works out good. At the end of the day, we want you guys in the air flying planes just like this, or even better. Get yourself the 80. Get yourself the 70. Get yourself what you need. Don't buy what we told you, buy what you need right now. That's what we want to support you in. So go to brianphillipsrc.com. You can sort by type and you'll see all of our different playlists. It's going to take you right there. You can watch all the videos if you want. If you're spending a lot of money, you might want to see our experience. You can gauge based on my skills because they're about the same. Most of the time, I don't make a lot of improvement. I don't get a lot of worse. I still make mistakes. I still crash. And so at the end of the day, you can use me as kind of like an analog baseline. And if you're a lot better pilot, which you probably are, then you can say, hey, I can do better than that. I won't do the wheels down on the graphs like that. Okay, good for you. I'll try not to do it again. So that'll answer your question. Brian Phillips RC is a resource for you. I want you guys to use it. You can sort by type, brand, affiliate that we worked with, hobby shop, whatever it happens to be, or you can search by type. So like Warbird, EDF, jets. That's what you want. You can compare and contrast this to the competitive offerings. Shh, don't tell FMS. But I gotta say, FMS makes a mean bird. And the ones that they're not selling themselves, they're making for the competitor. Just saying. Beautiful planes. You want one? Check it out. Links in the description. More flights coming, wheels up, wheels down, ordnance and all right now.